On Monday on BBC1, Miami Vice. When a black cop in New York takes the law into his own hands, he also takes on the Miami Vice Squad.
Now, I may seem somewhat unorthodox to the untrained eye, but when it comes to being a cop, I am strictly business, pal. And I'll be damned if I'm going to put my life on the line with some outlaw cop on a personal vendetta.
Miami Vice on Monday at 9:25.
Miami Vice, drop 'em. Drop 'em.
On BBC2 shortly, the last episode of Arnold Bennett's classic story, Anna of the Five Towns. Here on 1 in 25 Minutes, Real Lives takes us to the glamour of Las Vegas, venue for the 1984 World Hairdressing Championships. Now, the 9 o'clock news with John Humphrys.
Deadlock in the miners' talks, the union still won't give a written guarantee. The shed where police think stolen gold was melted down. The Lord Chief Justice wants new laws to strip drug dealers of their profits. The drought-stricken villagers of Ethiopia, no food, no help, and they're forced to flee. And from America, a new song for the starving. Good evening. Hopes of a negotiated settlement in the coal dispute receded further tonight, with both sides set in apparently immovable positions. The Coal Board still insists on a written undertaking that the union will discuss pit closures on economic grounds if there are to be new talks. The union says it won't accept any such preconditions. As the deadlock continued, the Coal Board spokesman Michael Eaton said tonight it seems likely that this stage of negotiations will come to an end. Our industrial editor Martin Adeney reports.
The mine workers' executive arrived for their meeting at the TUC headquarters in London in a mood of no surrender. It was clear they wouldn't agree to the Coal Board's demand for written guarantees they'd talk about closing uneconomic pits. Instead, they decided to call once more for talks without preconditions. A letter was sent to the Coal Board that made no mention of closures.
The executive, including me, are keen to have a settlement. But it's not going to be on the National Coal Board's terms. It's going to be a negotiated settlement, an agreement between us, not just what they want to do.
There's no way we're giving a blank cheque to anyone. In fact, no trade union official would ever give that. And that's the sort of mentality and attitude that's prevailing.
Then, after further talks with TUC officials, the executive left to stand by in the case of further talks tomorrow.
The National Executive Committee today unanimously emphasised that the Executive Committee wish a resumption of negotiations, but without preconditions. And that was very strongly emphasised, even from those areas who were not involved in the action.
That means no written commitments from the union in advance.
It means very simply that the NUM want to see a resumption of negotiations, but without any preconditions on either side.
So after a day of toing and froing and brief letters passing in opposite directions, the peace process appears not to have moved at all in the last 24 hours. Indeed, there are clear signs that the Coal Board is losing its patience, believing it's now being messed around by the union, and it's approaching the point where it backs out of talks altogether and relies instead on the drift back to work. It may wait until the executive meets again tomorrow, but the point of breakdown now appears to be approaching quickly.
There's been a setback for the NUM. More than £5 million of the money they'd sent abroad to avoid sequestration has been recovered by the receiver. That's more than half of their total assets. The receiver told the High Court that the £200,000 fine levied on the union for contempt last year has now been paid. The 4.9